Hi everyone, we are doing lesson 2 today of unit 3. Today we were talking about using parallel lines and transversals in order to help us solve for missing items or missing values. So with that being said, we'll start off by talking about what kind of angles we have in this image. So we are looking at angle 5 and 3, so highlighting angle 5 and 3. These ones are on opposite sides of our transversal here, and they're inside. So these, whoa, that's a horrible color to choose. Let me try again. There we go. These ones are alternate interior angles. They're on opposite sides, and they are inside. Looking at 4 and 6, then 4 and 6. Hey, I'm seeing these are also on opposite sides. This time, they are outside, though. So these ones would be alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior. All right, I'm going to skip ahead to our first notes slide of the day. So skipping past the calendar here and going straight to our first postulates. Now, these postulates are actually what we learned yesterday in lesson 1. I just pulled them from the textbook so that you had the written definition if that's something that is helpful to you. So these are just talking about those corresponding angles. Maybe we'll review them quickly. Corresponding, again, being the ones that are on the same side, and they kind of follow each other, I almost think, and they are always congruent. Then we also talked yesterday about alternate interior. Those ones are on opposite sides and inside, and those ones are also congruent to each other. We also yesterday talked about alternate exterior, very similar to interior, where they're on opposite sides. This time they're on outside of the transversal, or outside of those two lines, and those ones are congruent. And then we also talked about those same side or consecutive interior, kind of that name is shared. Same side or consecutive interior angles are on the same side and they are inside. These ones are the first ones that are different. These ones are always supplementary, so they add to 180. And then just like we have alternate interior and alternate exterior, there is same side interior and same side exterior as well. I didn't put that image in, but those ones are as well related. All right, moving to now using those angle relationships that we talked about yesterday with our transversals. This first one's saying the measure of three of the numbered angles is 120 degrees. Got it. Can we figure out which 3 angles are all also 120? Okay, so what this question is saying is, hey, we know that this angle right here is 120. Could we use our background knowledge on our transversals and our angles to figure out what other angles in here are also going to be 120 degrees? Going for my most tried and true, I know we've got vertical angles here, but maybe we can stretch our minds a little bit to use some of our new angle relationships. And I am thinking about alternate exterior. So right off the bat, I'm thinking, well, we've got 120 here. I bet angle 8 is also going to be 120 degrees. Why do I say that? Well, they're on opposite sides of each other, and they're both outside. So these ones are alternate exterior angles. I'm also thinking that we have some corresponding angles happening, and I'm seeing that with 120 and angle 5. They're kind of stacked on top of each other. So that tells me that angle 5 is also going to be 120 degrees. Because they are corresponding. And last but not least, I saved my favorite for last here. We have vertical angles with 120 and angle 4. So we could also say that angle 4 will be 120 degrees for that reasoning that they are vertical angles. Now using that and just kind of amping it up a level, now using our angle relationship idea, could we find the value of X? And so what I'm going to do right now is just kind of highlight what we know. We want X. We know that this angle here is 115 degrees. Now, just kind of looking at these two angles, the tricky part here is we don't have an angle relationship to describe these two. Like, they aren't alternate exterior because this angle with the X isn't here, which is what we would need for alternate exterior. And it's not interior alternates because that is where 115 would need to be. So what we might have to do actually is use a little bit more background here to help us find more angle relationships. And what I mean by that is we might have to find what angle 4 is to help us out. Thinking about 115 and angle 4, I know that angle 4 is also going to be 115 degrees because it's a vertical angle. And so we know that 115 is also going to be placed here. And why that kind of unlocks the door for us is because we know that angle 4 and this angle x plus 5 have an angle relationship now. So we know that angle 4 and whatever this x plus 5 degree angle is, these ones are same side interior or consecutive interior angles. And we know that same side interior or consecutive interior angles are always supplementary. And so what that tells us is now we have kind of unlocked the key here into finding this x value. Excuse my dog over here. We know that these ones... Okay, rewinding. He is done barking. Okay, where were we? We know that these are same side interior angles, which means that they are supplementary or that they add to 180 degrees. So what we can do is say 115 plus this x plus 5 angle should add up to 180 degrees, which now allows us to go ahead and solve. So I'm going to combine these like terms, which will give us 120 plus x equals 180. Subtracting this 120 on either side will get that x is 60. So that tells us that this angle right here would be 65 degrees. Alrighty, ooh, proofs are here to stay for a little bit. Yes, we did proofs last unit. That was our introduction. Now we are going to kind of sprinkle them throughout our remaining units. So don't fear the proofs. They're still going to be here. What we're going to do is try to prove that two lines are parallel if they're cut by that transversal, and then show that, in fact, then angles 1 and 2 would be congruent. So kind of going through our motions here, right? We're told that P and Q are parallel. That's what we were starting with. That's always our given statement. Looking at our picture, we see that denoted with those red arrows. Lovely. Okay, so then if we are trying to prove that angle 1 and 2 are congruent, the next statement that I gave was that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. I'm just highlighting here. We know that angle 1 and 3 are corresponding angles, and so that is the reason here. Why can we say they're congruent? Well, we have the background to know that they are corresponding angles. Next statement I say is that angle 3 is congruent to angle 2. What makes angle 3 and 2 congruent? Well, we have to use our angle relationship knowledge, and I know that angle 3 and angle 2 are vertical angles, so that could be my reason here. I know that 2 and 3 are the same because they're vertical angles. All right, incoming, one of our most favorite and most used properties here. Next, in the last step, I say, well, I can say that angle 1 and 2 are the same. Why can I say that? Well, that's the transitive property. So the transitive property allows us to say that. Again, why can we say that? Well, earlier we said that 1 and 3 were the same. Then we said that 3 and 2 were the same. So what we did was cut out the middle and say, well, that makes 1 and 2 also the same. So there's that transitive property coming back for us again. All right, now kind of sidelining our proofs here, we can talk about doing some algebra with our angle relationship. So looking at this one, we are asked to find the value of x. If we know that 3 is 68 degrees and 8 is 2x plus 4. Okay, so labeling those ones here. We can use any of our angle relationships here. What I might think about is maybe we do a little bit of angle relationships from last unit. Maybe we remind ourselves about that linear pair idea. As a reminder, linear pairs are two angles that form a straight line, and they're always supplementary. And the reason I'm pulling this one out is I'm looking at angle 3 and angle 4, and I'm noticing that they form a straight line, and they share this same side right here. So I'm thinking maybe we find what angle 4 is by doing 180 degrees minus 68. And that can tell us what this angle 4 would be. Okay, if we do that, let's see, 180 minus 68, I think that'd give us 112 here for angle 4. And the reason I kind of isolated that angle is because I know that angle 4 and angle 8 are corresponding angles. And so what I can go ahead and do is say, well, oops, that's not my pen, one second. Angle 4, there we go, and angle 8 are corresponding, and we know that corresponding angles are congruent. So that tells us that angle 4 should be the same value as angle 8. And so what we can do is say 112 is equal to 2x plus 4. And then we can go ahead and do our algebra from here. So if we go ahead and we start solving for our x, we can subtract our 4 over. Subtracting 4, what does that leave us with? 108 is equal to 2x. Dividing by that 2, we find x is equal to 54. So our x value is 54. All right, similar question. Now I only changed it just a little bit. This one is wanting us to say, find the value of x if we know that angle 4 now is 68 degrees and angle 7 is 2x plus 4. How would this change things? Now the last time this 2x plus 4 was in the angle 8 position. This time we put it where angle 7 is. Now looking at where we have these two angles, right? I'm seeing that they're on the same side and they're both inside. And so what this tells us is that angle 4 and angle 7 are either same side interior or consecutive interior, both the same meaning. And same side interior or consecutive interior are supplementary angles. And so this is telling us that these two added together should equal 180. So what we can do is say that 68 plus 2x plus 4 is equal to 180 degrees. In which case now we can combine our like terms and solve. So I'm going to add my like term 68 and 4 to get 72. That'll leave us with 72 plus 2x is equal to 180 degrees. Solving for x now, we're subtracting 72. That leaves us with 2x is equal to 108. Dividing by x, oh my gosh, that ends up to be 54 also. Cool. All right, last but not least here, you might be given some challenge type questions. And I say challenge type questions because we erased some of the lines in here to make it look like a little bit different of a diagram. And so my biggest hint for us when you're looking at questions like this is to always extend your lines out to help you see where the transversals end up being. And so what I mean by that is like this arrow only has one. So on the other side, I always like to draw it out a little bit and add the arrow. And I do it actually all the way around. So I'm going to draw all of these arrows out a little bit so that we can see where we have some transversals and some lines here. The second thing I always tell students that I think is helpful is to look for either like N's in your picture or Z's in your picture because these always help with the alternating angles, either the exterior or the interior. And so like one of those examples I'm kind of seeing of like an N or you might see a Z is like this situation. We're looking for this zigzag, and what this is telling us then is we have some alternating alternating interior with x and 45 degrees. And so right off the bat, we can say that x is equal to 45 degrees because they're alternating interior angles, which are congruent. And so this then would be 45 degrees. So I don't know. I think highlighting them kind of helps us see those a little bit clearer. And then it can also help with finding some other angles. Like I'm noticing now that y and 85 have a relationship. Y and 85 are corresponding angles, so they must be congruent as well. Again, that's because they are corresponding. They're on the same side of this transversal here. This transversal being this line here. And corresponding angles are always congruent as well. So that means that y will also be 85. Now, again, I labeled this one as a challenge question because it is tricky to see without extending those lines out. So I would recommend, again, extend those lines out so you can see where those relationships are coming from. And if it's helpful to move these pictures into your Notability to extend them, I definitely recommend doing so. With that, though, that is your lesson for the day. If you have any questions, send me a Schoology message. Otherwise, you can get started on your homework.